to put a narrative around it, just the opening paragraph for your consideration. Then I brought up the rationale, the learning outcomes, and the audience element at the top. And I think I'd put some prerequisites. I think it probably got deleted by mistake. Then I just brought up the elements of the core modules. But then what I wanted us to also think about is the week by week scheduling of those modules, because we'll only have 6 weeks. Yeah, so I think you can see, I don't know if there's anything specific you want me to speak about, then I can walk through it. So thankfully I can see you're on the document. I can see Martin is there. I can see Mwendia is also there. I can see Kevin is also on. If there's someone who doesn't have access to the document, maybe they can say, then we can see how to facilitate that. Lawrence dropped.
Thank you so much. Dr. Paula, for that. I think I want to project the curriculum. Just 1 minute, I need to project it. And I'll try as much as possible to make sure that this meeting takes the shortest time possible. That's one of the philosophy that I really want to have, but also achieves as much as is possible. So going to the agenda that was proposed, that's what I'm projecting. I'm looking at the portion on, there was a section that was proposed on the issue of curriculum foundation.
Your voice is vanishing. Your voice is going.
My voice. Okay. So I was saying that there was the curriculum title and branding, which is what is raised as the curriculum foundation, the issue of purpose and industry needs. And then there was the educational rationale and value proposition. Those are clear statement on that. So that is the first portion that was suggested that we need to think about. Then there was curriculum design and structure, of which there was an argument around the way it is delivered and how it is done. I think several models have been proposed there. And then assessment, and then resources and partnership, and professional recognition and OOB. Just to, the person who proposed this is Martin Kamara, and maybe we can allow Martin Kamara to say something before maybe we give our input in terms of comments. Martin, can go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Lawrence. Thanks for that. Yeah, my thinking, when we design curriculums, it's an exercise of basically 2 things or 3. But the first one is to have a reason for it. So I thought we need to have that reason clearly understood amongst ourselves, even before we go to Microsoft again, so that we have a sense of exactly why are we doing this. So that rationale, I thought, is something that should be understood at the basic level, because it will inform so many things. It will inform the title, the purpose, the industry needs, and also inform the rationale and the value proposition. This section of Curriculum Foundation Stone is based on what are we trying to achieve and what are we trying to do. Okay, so that discussion, I thought, is kind of like, if we block time for it, it'll be good. Then the next thing I thought is that the exercise itself is based on now 2 other things. It's based on constructive alignment, because once you've outlined your goals, your needs, we understand the value proposition, then everything else is a constructive alignment to these things. So then we can from that emerge with outcomes, competency goals, things like the curriculum framework itself. It emerges from what we have already said is the rationale and the reason why we're doing it. That first part results in number 2. And that's where we can discuss the model. And of course, we can then discuss the structure and the delivery format. This is quite heavily standardized. This C is structure and curriculum format. We can follow a lot of what we already know. Then comes the assessment. Now, the assessment is strongly aligned to the activities. So once we've worked out our model and we've known these are the activities, then the assessment and evaluation mechanisms will work. We'll figure them out, and we can discuss that so that we know what is the outcome. And we already know that, but we already know also the learning activities. We can align the learning assessments to the activities and the outcomes we expect. So that is, again, it's an exercise of constructive alignment. And then comes, of course, the resources and partnerships we can discuss, which look at, what we have said is our goal in the first place. Why is it we're doing this in the first place? So the resources will be determined by that, even the technology, and also the, we can argue, the partnerships that we get into, which are very important if they're industry partnerships. We have to keep it real in some ways if we want to make it work. And then finally comes the accreditation. Now, based on our goals, what we're aiming for, we'll know how we want to provide recognition for this, and we can discuss that. Once we've discussed, it's easy to write, I think. I mean, these are the core issues, but we probably need to have the strategy and the overall, you can say, aim worked out before we can get into the weeds. So I hope that kind of summarizes. I hope it's all right.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you for that, Martin, and thank you for also your input into the document, a lot of input you have done into it.
Right.
The first comment that I have is in relation to, I think we need to align properly in what we are actually doing in building this curriculum. This is, and I would be very happy to also get members' input on this. So number one is that what a curriculum does, if you look at what I had provided at the top here, in a sense, we need to differentiate between how the curriculum is delivered, because I see that bootcamp is one model that we can use to deliver the curriculum, the content, and that is delivery of the content. So Kenya Inter-Varsity bootcamp as a way of delivering, because in bootcamp you go there to teach some concept or to cover some concept or to do something with it. In the bootcamp, there is what you target. What I was thinking is, number one, is that in this curriculum design, we are just saying these are the things that needs to be covered. We will make this course available. It will be open source because that's what we are designing as a collaborative effort to start off the discussion around how one can get game. We had talked about around 6 months curriculum that we are designing. So once we design it, then when it comes to delivery, I'm now addressing the question on this part, curriculum, on this part of the way we will deliver, the issue of how it will be delivered. Will it be discipline-based curriculum that is typical academic style? Is it bootcamp? Is it apprentice? Is it micro-learning modules? Is it competence-based? Whichever mode we tend to pick for that, whether it's studio-based learning, where you use of creative and design fields, involves project-based work in studio environment. There's already what is written that these are the things that needs to be achieved. So there is the way I see it is that this portion of the way we deliver it, even the way we evaluate it, because competent-based is one way of evaluating it, where you look at issues around expectation, achievement, expectation, and this stuff. You can have problem-based learning. But there is already what is written in terms of this is the ideal part of what we would want to work with. This is what we would, even if we go for a bootcamp, these are the things that one bootcamp can address this topic, another bootcamp can address this topic, and so on and so forth. That is, I'm just trying to restrict myself to the issue of the distinction between the curriculum and the mode of delivery, and I would want to get feedback on that. Yes, Martin, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paula.
No, sorry, Paula. Should I go ahead or I leave Paula? Who should we do?
No, just go ahead, Martin. Sorry, I should have raised my hand.
Paula will come back. Yeah, we'll come in.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. But the very first thing which enters my head is there are two things. One, who are we targeting specifically? And then, what problem are we trying to solve? You see, I'm just problematizing. So even when you say those are the subjects, Yeah, but what problem are we trying to solve? I'll give an example. If we're saying that we want to target, in terms of who are we targeting, we want to target students, let's say, who are leaving school, and there's a market like that. You finish your, let's say, KCSE, like the students who are currently in KCSE. By end of this month, they'll be done with their exams. What are they doing in December? In fact, what are they doing for the next 6 months? You see, so is that our captive audience? And if it is, then there's an issue of basic knowledge they need to have in order for them to have a, let's say, a course to, let's say, knowledge they need if they're going to enter the gaming industry from school into the industry. In other words, there's a gap which we can now address the curriculum to, but it's targeting people who are leaving school. Now, people who leave school, they're in a strongly structured curriculum. We know exactly what they're doing. That means we also know what they don't know. And then we also know what the gaming industry requires. So we can now create the solution to fill that gap. That's one. Another example is where we say, okay, we're targeting students who graduate from university, but we could argue that those students are not industry ready. They still require training before they hit the ground running. If we're targeting those ones, and it's from different types of courses, we can identify the courses, we can identify the gap, and then we can create a study for 6 months that will allow them integration into the industry. You see, or are we targeting industry itself? Industry people who are practitioners, who have already, they are working, they are skilled, but they want to expand themselves. There are areas they are strong, there are areas they are weak. So they need to strengthen weak areas maybe. Are we structuring a course for them? That's what I mean. Who are we targeting? And then what are we trying to solve as a problem? That one, we need to be quite clear, I think. Or are we doing a mix? Again, we could be doing a mix, which means it's not just one. We're doing 3 programs here, all 6 months. You see, that's a hybrid or a mix of everything, a collection. So that's the kind of thinking that I thought we need to have clarity on, so that even as we start putting these courses down, we know who we're targeting. Yeah, that's it. That's what
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Paula.
Yeah, I think this is good because I think it reveals that we might be thinking about this from different perspectives.
Yeah.
So I think there is one understanding that we want to do just like a six month, like similar to the skilling initiative we went through for, the faculty who've gone through the data structures and algorithms training. I think just around software engineering, with the idea that this is a very flexible course that is it's agnostic to a university, but the people who are benefiting will be nominated from the universities, and they will now participate in a immersive experience, if I could call it an immersive experience, and it can have different modes of delivery. And I agree that even now when we're thinking about this, we could also think of different modes of delivery that can, facilitate this. And then that is one view. The second view is a curriculum that can go into a degree program. So, and my view is that the 6-month approach is a learning experience, because we don't know everything, and we might not even have, because I think the other thing that I've noticed is a challenge, which we may discuss later, is who will do the training. So I know the team from Halo Studios said that they will actually make extra time. Microsoft will also try and source some people who can, take us through some of those modules. So in a sense, the facilitation may not come from us. So what we are doing is creating the structure, the organization. They don't want to do the administrative part. They will give their... Sorry, a phone call was coming through. They will give their input in the structuring, so that they don't do a lot of the administrative work in putting this together, organizing it, recruiting students. That's all of us will do. So what they will do is show up and say, we've scheduled a session on this, at this particular day. Here's the link, guys, just join. We'll be there ready with all our students and, setting up our equipment with whatever we have. So what they're doing is minimal administrative work. That's how I'm understanding it. We do the administrative work and they come with their training engagement. They give us the training engagement at that point. And then once we have delivered this first 6 months, and this is now typical of what would tend to happen, is we will do a lessons learned. And from the lessons learned, we see how we can make this bigger. Because there's still the trainer and the content. So first of all, there's a curriculum. There's still the content development and the training, which now for me, it's just for us to confirm that the team coming from Microsoft and Halo will be the ones coming with the content and the training once we've agreed on the structure and once we've done the administrative organizing. Now, as to who is the beneficiary, so this is my suggestion. The beneficiaries would be nominated from our constituent universities. So like, for example, TUK will nominate. So we agree on how many we can handle in a class. So for example, if we feel like a comfortable number is 50, without having, to overwhelm, just to create a proper interactive experience that is balanced and you don't have too big class size. So maybe we say 50 or 60, and then we say we are 6 universities. I'm just giving an example. So each university gives 10 participants, right? And those could be a mixture of, the faculty and the students. So that's because also if we complicate it too much and we also take too long to begin, we might miss out on the fast mover, because we have their attention right now and they really want to see some action around it. We might miss out on it if we make it too complicated and take too long. Yeah. Part of it also was at the introduction, I suggested that we set some actual dates. So that's why also there's a course schedule. When does this start? What do we see as the first week, second week, third week, like that? How do we map it out across the it was not 6 weeks, it was 6 months. How do we map it out across the 6 months? Which days of the week? When do we have a week meetup? The way we had structured the other engagement was there are some sessions where you could do online, but there are some sessions which were hosted at Microsoft ADC for those who can attend physically. They did not kick out anyone who could not come physically but joined remotely, but it helped that we had physical sessions at ADC, which also drove a lot of collaborative work. And actually people learned a lot more maybe sometimes in those 1 week sessions than when they were away remotely. So maybe those are some of the things we can think about.
Okay, thank you, Paula. I think, Dr. Paula, I think for me, I see also Martin has a response to that. Yes, you can go ahead, Martin.
Yes, if you want to respond first, boss, you can respond. Then I can weigh in.
No, go ahead, no problem.
Okay. So I just want to respond to what she's saying, but let me give some background. I've been a Microsoft partner for almost 2 years or 3 years. And we were doing games for education. So I understand how Microsoft work. I also understand their priorities and how they do what they do. Let me tell you, the first thing is that Microsoft are very dependent on us. They don't, when you say you need expertise, it takes time for them to get you that expert. And if you're talking of 6 months, Microsoft can take 3 months to get you that expert. Get them to have time to pay for them to come. Even their payment model. Microsoft pay Kenyans from France. And this is Microsoft in Redmond that we're dealing with here. So instructions from Redmond, then payment from France. By the time that consultant is available, our timeline will be off. What I'm really saying is they're very dependent on us. In other words, we have to literally be on the ground. Then Microsoft will ask the question, how can we facilitate? The number one area that Microsoft can facilitate very quickly is with technologies, because they have a lot of technologies, particularly software. But they can facilitate with hardware and software technologies very quickly. The number two area they can facilitate is with facilities in terms of internet, meeting space. If we need that sort of thing, conferencing, they'll facilitate very fast. The third thing, which is very slow, is on the expertise. So don't think that if we say, okay, now we need Halo Studios. Halo Studios are very busy. They're very busy. And if you say now Microsoft facilitate them to come, you'll see it will take time. It's not going to happen in real time. And we are on a kind of schedule. If you say we're twinning ourselves to the university programs, then we'll be on a very tight schedule. So what we do should literally be self-sufficient. And we then need to ask Microsoft to come in where we see gaps or where we see they can help us to close the gaps. That's one comment I want to make, but it's based on experience of working with Microsoft for 3 years as a partner. And developing games, educational games for KICD. That's for the Kenya curriculum. So it's something I can speak to in precise terms. The other thing is that when we look at minimum, the target audience. Okay, target audience, let's say it's university students. What are we trying to solve? If we're targeting university students, let's say at the technical universities, they're already learning what is here. I see some things on a list here. They're learning that. So if we're targeting them, what value are we adding? Why would it be? Is it a duplication? Because if it is, what's the incentive then? Okay, if the idea is that, Microsoft's going to be training, I'm telling you, Microsoft's going to rely on us. If we're not organized, then the thing will become abortive. So we have to have a sense in which we can articulate the nature of the problem we're solving. If we're saying the capacity in the universities is low to deliver courses, and for real, we can quantify that, and we want to bridge a gap to increase and improve the outcomes of what's going on in university, then we know what kind of course we're talking about, because we can then be specific about it. That's one thing. But there are many things here. There's another one. You see, the way this core modules and everything is structured, it doesn't reflect game pipelining. In the industry, in the workplace, we pipeline all this stuff. In other words, there's a codependency, a very strong codependency between every one of these modules. So if we're training for industry, then this approach is not the industry approach. This is a very academic approach. That's why I brought up the issue of the model, because the gaming industry pipelines its work, so we can discuss that. But then if we're pipelining, this kind of arrangement of modules may not work. You see, so anyway, those are some of the comments. And yes, I agree, we should not take long. We should just move, but we should avoid duplication, number one. We should have relevance. It should be targeted, very strongly targeted, if we're going to survive. Microsoft's also only going to come in for a period. They'll come in for like 3 years, then they'll be out. So what happens when the funding stops or the support stops? Do we carry on, or are we out because they've gone? Let me tell you, the history is that most projects that are funded from let's say external capital injection, like Microsoft, Google, all these, they stop the moment we finish. If we want to carry on, then we must build sustainability in our plan. We have to have a plan with let's say a sustainable model. Funding, how are we going to raise our own funds so that it now is self-sufficient? You see what I'm saying? So Microsoft can inject capital at the beginning, and they'll do it. But as we progress, we move towards self-sufficiency. In that way, then we're good, because if they go, we can carry on. You see. So those are the comments, and they really affect what we're doing here. Like the issue of pipelining affects what we do here. This is an academic curriculum. I personally would have trouble with it, because if you're trying to train for the industry will still want to retrain these people to get them into a pipeline. Okay, those are my comments. Go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you for that. I think first of all, I need us to be aligned on a number of things. The first one is this: the curriculum we are designing is such that we will design it in a way that for example, if there is a cohort that is to be trained, this will be, as I said, my dream is to have this curriculum available as an open source tool that people can be able to. We'll actually put it on GitHub so that users can be able to adopt it. That's number one. This is very important that we design a curriculum to start off, because the group that we target mostly, the largest group of people that we target is at this level of our students. And I say that because these are the people who will then take up the opportunities that Microsoft highlighted and Xbox highlighted during our meeting. So this is a group that we tend to target. So what do I see us doing? Ourselves, what we want to do is design a curriculum that even an institution that want to start training gaming can borrow some concept. They don't have to implement it as it is. They don't have to implement it word for word. So here, if, for example, Martin, you realize that the way the models are is not the best of the best, you can create, we can be able to introduce now the idea of pipelining. That is to say, these are the things that, for me, the high values of what a gaming in the industry would have is this kind of, this is one pipeline, this is another pipeline that the person can have. The curriculum that we design, and this is something that I think is very important. If you look at, for example, the way we deliver it, the idea of the way we deliver it, the rationale, the collaboration, and all those things that we need, the people to collaborate. In fact, even talking about professional recognition, how we can say that at the end of this course, you get, it's a program that exists, because there are those courses that exist, somebody can decide to be giving it certificate. But for us to get to that level of certificate, that will be an institution domiciling it, or will have domiciled the curriculum itself in their organization. So say, for example, when Microsoft now takes it up and says, we agree because we are designing the curriculum there, and then we'll talk with the guys from Xbox, Microsoft, to give us input on what they think, things that they think we can add, things that they think we can remove, so that this curriculum eventually is a collaborative effort that is designed to address the issue of how do you move from a zero gaming development to some level that we can now even come and say that it's possible for you to take up some opportunity somewhere to start on that. So the idea is, and this is what I'm saying, we design a curriculum such that it will be having the foundational knowledge for the 6 months. Of course, you will have to cover something else to go and add more knowledge that a student from any university, a student from outside can take it up and be able to do. We'll build the content. The way, for example, when now we come to the Microsoft part, where Microsoft decides that we are going now to be offering these at that level, they will take it up and have faculty trained on it. Then they will now say that for us now, because this curriculum was designed with our collaboration and our support, then we have taken it up, and now we want to make sure that we add the certification, we add what needs to be gotten from it, and then the kind of whether we are going to take lecturers from universities and all that. We can't, we competently, we can't talk about what Microsoft will do with that, because that's another entity. But what we can talk competently about is that it is possible for us to use what they promised us in terms of possibilities for us to design, to help us design some curriculum that talks about what a user in gaming needs to gain. We put resources, we bring on the resources that I use so that I can take this one and cover maybe on my own, and then be able now to go ahead and say, I have competencies in terms of game developing at the foundational level that I can now go and maybe add more skills elsewhere, and this kind of thing. So this is our entry point into that aspect. And now, even if it's my university, say JQuat, that would want to implement this, they will take it up, and then we can add what needs certificate. What certificate do we need to give these people who have done the gaming system? Otherwise, if you think about it, how if we start thinking about certification, then that becomes a bit difficult, because we will need to look at which bodies are we approaching. Can we not design a curriculum, and then we'll have a body coming in to say we can be able to give maybe certification for this, or we can do a bit of tweaking to it to get to the level where we can be able to achieve it. Because things like title, the branding of the curriculum, the way we'll design, that is something that can come within the content. The purpose and industry needs, we can have that section clearly written. Rationale, value proposition. Do we need this curriculum to be pipeline, as you have said? And Martin, you can start us off with that idea. Because once we have suggestion on that, then it will be good to have that. Yes, you can go ahead. Martin?
Yeah, thanks for that, Lawrence. I think, yeah, you're getting into the details now, and it's good because we need to get into those details. I think, as you said, we want to keep the meeting as short as we can. You know, the first thing I'd say, but I just want to keep it short, so I'm not explaining in much detail. The units that we have here, as they're structured, are not workable from an industry perspective. This is very academic. So, yes, we do need to pipeline. That's one thing I want to mention. I'll give you an example of how we can do it. The second thing I want to mention is that this issue of credentials and recognition. One area Microsoft can help us with big time is with credentialing. You see, in Kenya, we don't have micro-credentialing. You have said they're going to do it, but Q might take their time. Microsoft already do it. So if we say, for example, in a pipeline, we have 3 skill sets we want to impart, and we want to give credentials for those 3 skill sets. Microsoft can give us those credentials for it. They have a credentialing and accreditation system already, which is based on micro-credentials that we can borrow from. So why not then? It lends itself to a much more flexible program. This one, by the way, also, the way it's worded and laid out is inflexible, especially if we can't plug it in somewhere. What we're saying is that if we looked at a collection of knowledge and skills that are needed in the industry, and these are all needed at different levels. We can say at introductory, even foundational, introductory, intermediate, advanced. We have those levels. And then we say that, we break them down into very short skills courses, which run for 2 weeks. Even they can run for 1 week. So that at, let's say, foundational level, we have, let me just say a number, 12 very short courses that run for 2 weeks each. You can take them in sequence, you can take them parallel, you can also take them at different points in time. They don't have to be happening all at the same time. What we do is we issue micro-credentials for each one, and we get the micro-credentials from Microsoft. So they get Microsoft certification from Microsoft for whatever skill we've imparted. You see what I'm saying? That way, someone can come in and say, for example, if, let's say, in computer science, now, computer scientists have very good, let's say, programming skills. So they're good at game development, and they learn that in school. But you might find a computer scientist in JKU CAT wants to learn game design. Game design is about storytelling. Now, TUK specializes in storytelling. So if you want to learn that and you're not being taught that in school, you might want to acquire the micro-credentials from what we're doing for game design, and vice versa. So the game designers want to get micro-credentials for game development. Yeah. So that's the kind of system. It's flexible. It allows for us to map it onto some meaningful accreditation. That will make a massive difference in terms of sustainability. Now, you mentioned something about sustainability, that we should be thinking of this course feeding into university programs. Yeah, that's okay. Even the idea of open source, that's fine. But I think it should be sustainable. I really do. And if you want sustainability, if you want people to come in and pay you for doing it because they want a micro-credential, put in the accreditation from Microsoft, because Microsoft is recognized. And then have something that they are targeting. So even a professional might say, well, I don't have skill in game art. Game art is another category. I want that skill. Maybe I want to learn 3-dimensional modeling. That's it. So we have micro-credentials for those. You come in. Now, we organize this into a 6-month program. So if anyone was coming in and saying, I want to cover everything, okay, the whole thing takes 6 months if you come in a traditional sense. But it's broken up into modules, and these modules target individuals. Now, what we put in open source, at the last,
that just to make sure that because of trying to save time, I agree fully that I hear your idea on the way we can break it down to non-academic approach, and you can see we have added that kind of thing. So what I'm suggesting is this: there is the core unit that there is what was suggested here. We can also have an alternative too. This membership will look at them and see, because they are able to understand, they will be able to see which one. Our idea here is to see which one of the two can we be able to actually have as our best idea. So I would suggest, Martin, if possible, that this document is open for us to add that portion. You add which, even you put if possible, you put the time in terms of weeks or in terms of hours that you think a certain course can take. Sure. You put what the name would be and what you think is, because we will then add content to each one of them. Even here, introduction to game development, there was going to be now where once we agree that this is important, we were going to add meat into it, say what introduction to game development means. Right. Then for you now, and that's why I wanted this meeting on that, is because for you now, you'll come here and add. I feel that the first approach is more academical. It's not, and remember, academical is not what is helping. We want to put these people to an industry. We want to put these students to be able to start making games and making money out of it. The opportunity is there, as you see the billions that are there. So it means this curriculum has an open segment of us trying to put it in, even the way you are saying, that these are sections that you can cover, then you can get a micro degree or a micro credits on it, and it's possible for you to jump some and leave it. Please start us off. We are open for this discussion on that.
Okay, if I may just make a comment, yes, I think that's a good idea. Maybe this document has two components right now. It has the minutes component. Maybe we make a separate document for the minutes. I mean, not minutes, but the agenda. And then that can become minutes. And then we can have this item 1, which you have already got as a curriculum 1, option 1. And then we can do option 2, a separate document, so that we keep it clean. So we have option 1, option 2, even option 3, 4, like that. And then, as you say, we can just meet to say, this is what's good here. We can mix, we can match, we can choose. Maybe this is a way we can organize our documentation. Yeah.
Perfect. Well taken, especially because I just need to pull the minutes part so that our meetings, we have a way, and we'll have people to be able to work for the minutes and record and such. And then we can also have curriculum 1, which is core, and then curriculum 2, which is model. I'll do that. That's okay.
So just a quick clarification. What is the intended output of this? Is it a curriculum that we want to derive? Or are we seeking to have an actual training take place? I think maybe that's what I need to get some clarification.
Okay, so our view is this: even if an actual training happens, because that can happen, the actual training that happens, we should think about it, the fact that that training will be based on some form of a curriculum, There exist already other curriculums that are out there, and we will get inputs from, that's why we are saying our draft is a document that will continue being involved, and that's why we will bring even that team that started the dream, the Microsoft team and the Xbox team, to try and look at it and give us the input. So yes, one output and the major output of it, there will be a training. I believe it should be possible because the way you are saying university is being selected. But the beginning part is that our curriculum that, remember, we are not just doing this so that we have the training happening only. We are also seeing an opportunity where other universities which have no game development curriculum can come in and say, this is one document that they can start working on and then improve on that. Even a person who is self-trained can come in and start saying, this is a curriculum that I can start off and start looking at what I need to know and then decide I can go here. But the training, if, for example, USIU decides that we'll adopt this curriculum because this curriculum is very good, it has been designed with the industry in the thinking and all that, there are some things that they may decide to add, there are things that they may decide to drop, and they are free to do it. That is to say that this is an open source kind of a product that we are designing for the curriculum. Then Microsoft, if we talk to them and as we present to them this and they say, we will be able to offer the first training, which will be able to achieve these parts and this part, and we can take some staff members from university, it will be okay if they use it, and then they can decide on the issue of, because as has been said, it's possible for us to talk to them in terms of giving some certification in that case on some of these programs. So it can be used as a training, but the ultimate goal first is to design a curriculum that is that will change the industry in Kenya in terms of resources that people can have somewhere to turn to if they just want to do the game.
Okay, so if that's the case, that the main intention is a curriculum, why 6 months then? Why not a proper degree program? Because we're representing degrees, or we just say this is meant to be a certification. If it's a credentialing one, I hear what Martin is saying. And if it's a university, coming from a university borrowing this curriculum, then a university borrowing this curriculum would not do a 6-month program, unless it's a short course that is meant to be industry focused. And if it's a short course that is meant to be industry focused, then it has to really be carried by a body that is offering it as a certification. Because at the end of the day, whether it's a certification or a degree, you have to have the kind of organization that is delivering it in mind. So let us say we agree it's a 6 month. Let's say that's the way we've said it from the beginning. If it's a 6 month program, then we're probably thinking of a technical training. So TUC would be essentially very good for maybe delivering a technical, either TVET, NITA kind of based accreditation, which will be able to give an industry certification around it. But even then, I can tell you, to get a certification approved in that process, you need to be a body that has already been accredited, and you need to apply for that kind of program to be accepted and rolled out. Similarly, also for a degree program, would still need that to be approved. So you would have to design with that in mind.
So
if I'm getting that right.
Yes, Prof. So here is the thing, and this is also important. When we had this talk, there was an agreement around the fact that we have a lot of youth who are unemployed, and one of the gaps that if, for example, Hello Studio decided that, let us say they decided tomorrow they want some developers in this kind of argument that they want to be employed or such, they don't have. We have a lot of our youth who don't know how to start off in gaming.
Yes.
Or game development. We have a lot of youth. So what we are giving them here, that's why I'm talking about the curriculum being a document that can be adopted by a university. Because the problem with us now going through saying that we adopt the university, I see a comment on the chat that is, okay. So to design with the end game in mind. The end game meaning that because when I'm thinking about it, and this was the idea, is that we are designing a curriculum in which it will be available, and therefore users, even if they're universities or TVET, they can be able to take it up and start it off as a document draft 0, where they can be. Otherwise, the issue of us going to a university and talking about accreditation in one university, that is something that I sincerely wouldn't want to. For now, the university bureaucracy. Yeah, I wouldn't want us to promise ourselves a lot of heaven when we cannot deliver on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just then to say, what would then be the value of doing this? Mm-hmm. As opposed to, even when Chris Matthews was presenting, he showed us a Coursera developed training. What would be the value of us doing this if somebody can jump onto Coursera and pay for a module to do game development?
Okay, so yeah, that's a very good question, and perhaps what
value will we add as opposed to maybe what has already been designed and also content has already been provided?
Okay, yeah, Martin has his hand up. Yeah, that's a good question. That's a very good question. Yes, Martin.
Oh, okay. Sorry, let me help to answer that. Yeah, I think that's the key question actually. What is our unique value proposition? But it's not a difficult one to answer. Number one, I'll give you 2 examples, then I'll tell you exactly what our unique value proposition is. The first example is if you invite, let's say, Hello Studio to come in and run a course, you'll find a mismatch between what Hello Studios are telling us and what our students, let alone our lecturers, can do. There'll be a mismatch. It'll be so big that Hello Studios will be confused as to how they can help us because we are not understanding them. What do I mean? Hello Studios will implement a methodology or a way of working that's very capital intensive. Number 2, very machine intensive, very heavy on the rendering and the machine capabilities. Hello Studios will assume you're changing your computer every year. They'll assume that you have, internet that is racing. They'll assume some things which they don't understand actually. They'll only come to understand on the ground when they see the kind of students, when they see the kind of capacity we have. That's when they'll understand. But anyway, those are things I'm letting you know in advance. We can discuss that for a long time, but I'll leave it.
I think that's an assumption. Let me just say why. No. I actually spent some discussion with them exactly on that.
Yeah.
And they were very categorical. This one I can tell you, I can say I'm quoting them, right? Mm-hmm. They were very categorical that, number one, they're not even thinking of a training that will require gaming consoles or anything that is unique. They had a session on Wednesday, and that's why I'm saying with our students, and that's why I'm saying I can quote them on this. They say the kind of gaming development that they would like to train is one where it will, first of all, run on very low compute end devices like a mobile phone, and will not require, or just a normal laptop or PC, and will not require additional investment in end devices. That one I can quote. If you want, you can take it to the bank or
I accept. I accept.
I remember asking and engaging with them on that. So their unique proposition will be for Africa. That cannot be the approach for gaming. And in fact, when our students presented on the Wednesday, they kept on challenging our students. Why are you only designing for a gaming console? Why are you requiring your end user to buy an additional device? So they specifically said, I want to challenge you guys to think about the African market and its uniqueness, where you will not go asking your target market to acquire additional devices that are high in specifications. You will be looking to roll out games that can actually fit in that. Now, the reason why I'm raising these issues is because we want to capitalize on their willingness to actually do a training. And we're not saying it will be perfect for sure, but we can then take that as a lessons learned, because what we're trying to do is take advantage of an opportunity. They've come in country. We've said we want to make this more than just talk. The curriculum we're developing, we want it to actually be implemented with this actual training that we can have, so that it can be a tried and tested action. And any challenges, there'll be many challenges, of course. There'll be many challenges in the training. The challenges will involve, it can be from the understanding mismatch, these are Western, we're Africa. That can be a lessons learned. There can be a challenge in terms of articulation of concepts. Maybe there's such a huge gap between the connecting of what is being expected and what is actually on the ground. All those can be opportunities for us to learn, so that the iteration from that training experience is no longer theoretical. It is actually with a reflection of an actual experience, so that we're not removing them from the equation. In fact, for me, what will be a unique proposition from the Udemys and the Coursera's is that this, first of all, will be with an engagement with them and fine-tuned for an audience that is very reflective of our African university, Kenyan, even before we go beyond Kenya, with our African or Kenyan realities. For me, that is the unique proposition.
Correct. And that's, okay, that's actually what captures what I'm trying to say, that let us go ahead.
Allow me then.
Design. Yes, go ahead, Martin.
No, you finish. Sorry, I was hearing you and then maybe I was a bit behind.
Oh, sorry. So I was saying that let us go ahead. And that unique proposition will come because there is something that we are trying to target, which is that we would want to benefit from their input. We would want to benefit from their input in terms of what we are doing. And then, because eventually, as you heard from that conversation, we would want to train people who can fit at the higher level, so that then they can tell the African story. That is very important in the discussion that we have. So what am I suggesting? I'm suggesting this. As has been agreed, let us approach this in a way that the sections that have been decided at the bottom here, that were agreed here at the bottom, are sections that we'll put in the document, the final document that we'll have, whichever approach we decide. But let us use this approach. We agree on what would be our expectation of a good curriculum in terms of what it needs to cover. Then we'll go ahead and it could be, remember here we are not close to that. This is an academic approach, I agree. We can have this in an academic approach. We can have another one that is gamified. But don't forget, please don't confuse the idea of the way the curriculum says and the delivery model. We can have various delivery models that will come, but there is what needs to be covered. Even if you come for a boot camp, you come for a project-based, there is what our idea of what needs to be covered or what you need to know. Then from there, guys, we will be able to get that input and add all the sections that are needed. I actually suggest that we think about all these sections that are needed. Then, during our meeting, because there's somebody who has done also a lot of work in trying to add what needs to be added in each of the sections, which I fully say that we can go ahead and look at them and see which content we give to be able to achieve that. So I think the value proposition has been identified as being that there is Kenyanization, which is important in that case, and also Africanization, which is coming in. But things like certification, let us design the curriculum and then we will think about that part. But we can also approach Microsoft to try and see what can they do on that end. Thank you. Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lawrence. Yes, I think I'm now trying to weigh in on the value proposition. And of course, if we acculturate it, if we ground it in our culture, then we're in a strong position. What I want to say is some facts that we know. Halo Studios is not a low-end game design. The Halo series of games are all Xbox based, and they're all high-end. In other words, they may be saying what they're saying, but I don't think they are the ones who will deliver the training then in the African context. But then who's best suited to build games for the African context? See, those are the questions. What I'm saying is, if we have a clarity of what we want as an outcome, we can be prescriptive to Microsoft on who are the best trainers, exactly what sort of program we need. They think we need Halo. See, just Microsoft's trying to push Halo, actually. They're trying to get their sales to go. So that's part of the whole thing behind what they're doing, which is their own business, you can say, initiative. They're doing their sales and marketing. But we're not necessarily trying to push Halo. We need people who can come in and genuinely participate in making African games for African context. And when we start discussing the context, you might find that Halo may not be the best suited trainer, actually. That's what I'm trying to say, that we have to be, as Africans, our best friends. And what I mean is, our unique value proposition in terms of this program, for us, and now I'm speaking to Africans, I'm not speaking to Microsoft, I'm saying, is that if we produce a curriculum, as let's say Lawrence had said, which can be put on open source, not the curriculum, the resources, the educational content, the course design, all the scheme of studies, we can put in open source. But that's not a course. That's just our educational resources on open source, which we can do. The course itself is an example of how this can be implemented. When we run our courses, we should be able to run courses for, let's say, university level, foundational. I'll say why later. But number two, we should be able to address basic skills at university level. Number three, we should be able to advance or to train for intermediate skills, again, degree level. And number four, we should be able to train for advanced skills. But beyond that, we should also have a course that's attractive to industry practitioners. Why? Because they have money and they're ready to pay for anything that's useful and meaningful. So we should still have a course that will attract industry practitioners. Number six, we should still have a course that's attractive to school leavers. These ones who are doing exams now, who let's say might want to enter game design, but parents are saying, yeah, we don't mind paying for a course like this one. So we'll pay for it for them to come. We should have a course that is flexible, diverse, adaptive. In that sense, it is now, you can say, relevant to the African condition. I'm being very prescriptive, very specific. I'm not using Africa as a buzzword. I'm using it in a very exact way. And there is a way we can do it. And we know Africans, I'm speaking to Africans, we know that we're interested in certification. For example, if you want to sustain this course and get parents to pay, they will pay. But they'll ask you first question, so what do you get when we do it? So that's an African thing. That's how we're a very certificate-oriented society. Now, industry itself doesn't need certification. It doesn't. But the parents who are paying would want it. But industry themselves, if you're talking like you and me, we're lecturers. If we are going to an interview and we're teaching game design, and we're able to show that we have got certification for a series of courses we have taken that are relevant to what we are doing. These are short courses, 1 week, 2 weeks. You see, it works in our favor. We have money, we have salaries, we have income, we can pay. That's what I'm trying to say. So one of the things I'm keen on is sustainability. I don't think that we should run this course in a way that or even develop everything that we're doing in a way we get one payout from Microsoft and that's it. Once Microsoft stops paying, it's gone. No, we can sustain it if we approach it that way from the design perspective. But what is African? I'll just repeat. Adaptability, diverse, targeted. When I say targeted, I mean context. Context must be very strong. We can discuss that one, but I'm just saying it must be very contextual for us to make it African. At the same time, it must be relevant to our condition. Now, what is our condition in this case? It is for young and also professional, even old, you can say game industry practitioners to participate in the gaming industry because they interacted with our program. We want to be active. We talked of billions of dollars out there. We're not accessing it. We want to access. So that is what we want. And that is okay. So we want jobs, we want business, we want these kind of things that will be income generating. So sustainability is important. So those are the things. Now, I think, okay, we can have I like it that we're going to have more than one option on the table so that we can have the argument based on what we're saying. How adaptable, we can even measure how adaptable is this one? How flexible is it? How, let's say, diverse is it? If that's our goal, by the way. If our goal is not that, if our goal is simply to do what universities are already doing, that's different, you see? And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying let's feed the industry and see how we can build the industry from people who are not in the game, for people who are studying it, and for those who are already in the game, they're already at the workplace. That's really what I think would be good. And we can start with 6 months. 6 months, we can cover a certain body of knowledge. But we can, if we're sustainable, we can do another 6 months ourselves. We can look for funding. If Microsoft pull out, we can look for funding from elsewhere. So it's not limiting in that sense. That's the kind of approach I'm thinking.
Okay, so I think we'll open the floor for even other members to also who have comments to give their comments as well.
Yeah.
But I think what we are getting into the foundation is the agreement that we'll have anybody who thinks that they can have a different model will be able to add to it.